This is part 35 of rebuilding a vintage open steam launch. This clip shows me removing parts from the hull in order to repair it, because there's a long crack that runs full length of the hull from the bow to the stern, and this is no good at all. It's been quite a long time since the last episode about this boat. That is mainly because when repairing a wooden hull you cannot just dive in and do it straight away. What you need to do is leave the hull for a few weeks in front of a heat source, or at least at room temperature, so that the crack can dry out, and if there's any movement it can move a little bit more, then it will stabilise. And during the time between the episodes I've had lots of messages with people asking me, what? No 35? No episode 35? Etc, etc. But now the hull has thoroughly dried out, so it's time to continue. Initially I found there was a crack in the hull because some water that was inside the hull dripped out onto the bench, which was a good idea really, because the crack didn't look that bad, but it really is, and the more I look at it the worse it gets. If I wanted to bodge this job and do a quick job, I could just brush the internal part of the hull with epoxy resin. That would seal the leak, but the water would always get into the outer part of the hull, and over time the crack would develop further. I have a really old vintage steamboat in the workshop that I repaired a few years ago for a customer who never picked it up, and it's still there, and the hull is still very stable. The hull of the steamboat was a plank-on frame construction, and it was cracked in so many places it was like a sieve. But by leaving the hull on the bench for quite a while to thoroughly dry out and equalise at room temperature, I was able to repair it, and to this day none of the cracks have opened up. It is still watertight. So if you've been studying the clips on screen, you will see that I made a mount for the boat so I could turn it upside down without damaging the deck. And now I'm using, first of all, a little drum sander to remove the paint. And a health and safety warning, if you're doing jobs like this, it's a good idea to wear a mask so that you don't breathe in the paint residue, because this could be very old paint and it could contain lead or any other poisonous substances. And now, with the help of a really old t-shirt, I'm going to wipe away the dust so you can see the extent of the damage. It's not enough just to remove the paint and then apply some body filler and sand it down, so I'm using a variety of different tools to get to the source of the problem. The real cause of the problem is the manufacture in the first place. When the keel was fitted there was a bit of a gap, and the gap was filled with possibly some kind of filler from the time period when the boat was built. Generally speaking, fillers and adhesives have really come on in the last 50 years, so it's better to use some of the more modern adhesives to fix this problem. But first of all, as I've just said, I have to remove the paint. Once the majority of the paint around the area has been removed, I can use a chisel like this one to just enlarge the groove. It really is important to dig out the crack in the hull. And I must stress once again that it will not work just covering over the crack with some body filler. In this clip I'm using a different tool in my small minicraft drill, and I'm using this to dig down into the crack in the hull to make a groove, and it's this groove that's going to be filled first. By this point it was making quite a lot of dust that was starting to go all over the bench, so I thought, I know, I'll use my vacuum cleaner as a dust extractor. The sparks that you can see at the end of this clip are due to me cleaning up a hole in the bottom of the hull, and this is the hole where the water was originally pulled in for the water pump to feed the boiler. This is not going to be used as such, not to feed the boiler anyway, but I need to make sure that there are no cracks around the metal part. This clip shows me applying a copious amount of cyanoacrylate adhesive. This adhesive will run into the groove that I've created and also soak into the crack beyond the groove, so it's a fairly permanent repair. It's a bit of a balancing act. If I use too much it will run, if I use too little there won't be enough, but it will be a very strong repair when it's done. And once this is covered over with some car body filler, I think it will be a successful repair for a long time to come. Until this cyanoacrylate adhesive has had time to soak into the hull, I really am watching out for any runs, because I do not want it to run all the way down the paintwork. I'm going to be rubbing the paintwork down, so it's not that much of an issue, but I don't like to make more work. And now, as I pan the camera along the bottom of the boat, you can see the extent of the damage. And while the cyanoacrylate adhesive is drying, or setting, or curing, or whatever it does, I'm doing a bit of painting. This is a bit overdue, I should have done this a while back. These are the steam pipes that are clad in string, and I'm applying a lot of paint to them. This is the first coat, and this is the other one that I'm painting. Sometimes I can paint items and I don't get any paint on me, and other times I get a lot of paint on my fingers and on my t-shirt. I have a lot of t-shirts with paint on them. Right, what I'm going to do now is open a tin of red Humbrol enamel. The owner of the boat said he painted the boat in the first place with Humbrol enamel, but as the Humbrol enamel on this boat is well over 50 years old, it's probably changed colour. I will apply some. As you can see, it's definitely not the same colour. I may have to mix my own paint if I want to match the colour of the paint on the hull. It's not a major problem because I am going to be painting the entire hull. I'm not just going to patch it. But alas, this shade of red looks a little bit too bright to me, so I may have to create my own mixture of paint to match the original. The other colour that's on the hull seems to be a sort of a yellow creamy colour. So as I couldn't find a yellow creamy colour listed on Humbrol's charts, I thought I'll try ivory. This is called ivory because I presume it's supposed to look like ivory, but it's nowhere near. So I'm going to mix my own as well for this. When I do the painting for real, I will of course be rubbing down the entire hull and masking off the different sections. Not like this is just a test. The ivory is not too bad, it looks okay, but I don't want to change the colour too much. I think I'll buy a tin of cream paint and see what that looks like. It's really a cross between cream and what's called buff, which is a yellowy colour. I will get the colours to match by trial and error, but for now I'm removing this paint, because I certainly don't want a paint finish like you've just seen. That's it for now, so don't worry, episode 36 is around the corner. Thanks for watching and I hope you found it useful.